Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the phrase, "It is what it is." And I remember the first time I heard this phrase, I was at work. I was a young associate at a law firm, and a bunch of the young lawyers at the firm heard a rumor that the partners of the firm were going to be letting some of us go. And I remember we talked all night long, most of us, as we worked, and we were all nervous and worried. And I remember one of the young attorneys always used to say, "It is what it is." And he would go back to work. And I remember at the time thinking, that's such a depressing way to think. It is what it is. It almost made me feel like he was saying, well, there's nothing we could do about it, so let's just give up. And I guess in my mind, I thought if we talked about it, somehow we would figure it out. But that young attorney was right. He was the smartest one in the room. He saw the writing on the wall. He realized he couldn't change it. And he got back to work, and he left the office earlier than most of us who were gossiping all night long about our fears and worries about what was going to happen. And it turns out a few months later, they did let some of my colleagues go, but there really was nothing to do about it but accept it. And over time, I've come to see that the quicker you accept it, the quicker you could solve for it if it's a problem. The quicker you accept it, the quicker you could start looking for a new job. But when we don't, the story just goes and goes and goes and goes, and we keep trying to undo it in our mind. And there are things that are very hard to accept, and I know I've talked about this before. And some things maybe we never accept, but I think all of us know that when we accept something, we feel better, even if it's painful, because it gives us a place to stand. It's a beginning. It is what it is a beginning. So when I used to hear that associate say that, I never realized that for him, it ended the conversation. He went back to work so he could begin again. So if you're somebody that can't let things go, that can't accept things that have already happened, that you worry about things you said, you worry about relationships that are lost, and maybe you write stories about what's going to be. It's so much easier if you could look at today and say it is what it is. And I find that actually is the foundation of hope. It's really hard to be hopeful when we're obsessing about what we can't change. The minute you say this is what it is, and life is uncertain, and if it's uncertain, that means things can change. My life has maybe, and I have hope. But we could only stand in hope when we accept what is. We're not saying we like it. We're not saying it's okay. We're not saying we're not going to change it. And I have to be honest, today, when I hear it is what it is, I might have a knee-jerk reaction and be like, wow, that's depressing. But I remember each time that it's just one moment. Things look this way for one moment. You're heartbroken for this moment. And maybe the next and the next, but one day maybe you won't be. In this moment, you have to accept a job loss, a fight with a friend, an issue with your child. Because you say it is what it is, it's saying, in this moment in time, this is what is. And the minute you accept it, you get to ask yourself questions like, is it possible to make the situation better? Is this situation I should just walk away from and do something else? Is there something I need to do? Is there something I need to say? But only it is what it is leads us to that moment. We can't relitigate the past. We can't write stories about what people think because we'll never know what other people think. We only know what people choose to tell us. And whether what they tell us is accurate, I guess, is based on how well they know themselves. So all we could do is stand in this moment and look at our experience. We can't wonder why someone didn't call, and we can't always know why a client didn't give us the job. And there's no point sitting around trying to figure out things you'll never know. But when we accept our situation, then we could say, what are we going to do about where are we going to go? And also, too, we could be so present. It is what it is. I can rest now. And that really is one of the best feelings, the feeling that we've accepted our lives as they are. and we could just sit and feel peaceful. I don't know about you, but peace is my favorite feeling. I mean, I love laughing. Sometimes I like crying. And there are so many other things I'm interested in. But the thing I like best is peace. Just being at peace with the way everything is. And in this world, with all these crazy things going on, it's not always so easy. But some of those thoughts we have are about the past, and some of them are about the future. And if we say it is what it is, we could rest in the moment that we're in. And sometimes there's a lot of peace there and a lot of joy, if we're willing to step into each moment free and clear. And I don't say this lightly, but the more you can look at your present circumstance and say it is what it is, the past will stop haunting you as much. And you can land in the moment to either process your feelings, come up with new ideas, let things go, because you're not arguing with the past or the future. You're just accepting the moment as it is. Sometimes it really helps to think about things in life that can't be changed. For some reason, our mind takes over. This imagination of ours takes over. It makes us think we could undo things that are done. And that's why it's good to list things that can't be changed. Can't stop the rain, the sun from shining in the morning. You can't change a restaurant's menu. You can't change past events, sporting events, past elections. So why can we change what was said between us and someone else? How can we change a past business dealing or a failed business? All we can do is come to this moment and say it is what it is and go from there. New jobs, new businesses, new relationships, mended relationships. Whatever we're going to do, the most solid ground we could stand on is the moment we're in. So think about what you're not accepting in your life. Think about the memories that always plague you, the things you're always thinking about, the worries you always have. What are you fighting with? Is it a relationship? Is it a job? Is it a career? Is it your child? You know, sometimes we're holding someone to a standard that they'll never meet. We're wanting them to be more than they are. We want our children to act differently than they do. But in this moment, it is what it is. It's very chaotic to live a life where you want things to be different than they are. So many times in my life, I was waiting for my book to be published. I was waiting for my podcast to be more popular. I was waiting for this, waiting for that. It feels so bad to want the moment to give you more than it's giving you. And I do believe the more we accept and the more expansive we are and the more open we are, we will create more in our lives. But this moment has to be enough, and we have to accept it as it is. That's the springboard for everything else. So again, think about things that you know you can't change. And then put your past in that category and see what happens. Accepting things can be a long road or a short road, depending what you're dealing with. But it is the beginning of letting go and the beginning of creating something new. So whether you like what's happening or you don't like what's happening, it is what it is always the pathway to creating our best lives. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe or A Year Without Men, they're available at all major bookstores and online retailers. And if you like this podcast, you could subscribe and leave a comment.